as I was saying, if you're wondering why the Sith and the Jedi don't get along, the reason for why, the meaning of the whole feud between the Sith and the Jedi, is that the Sith took one half of the philosophy of the planet where the Force was originally studied, as the Sith and the Jedi were originally one group. However, the group splintered into two groups because as they studied this planet, these philosophers suddenly realized that they had this innate ability to perform these specific strange feats while they were on the planet. However, certain features of the planet would make certain abilities stronger. So, for example, if one were to utilize the more violent aspects of the planet, then they would consider that a call to the dark side, as they called it. They would say it's in reference to the dark side. The dark side being quite literal in the interpretation as the dark side of the planet. So it's the side that has all the clouds is what their interpretation is referring to. It's literally a shadowy, clouded over side of a planet. That is what they mean whenever they talk about the dark side in Star Wars. Not to be confused with the Marvel variant of dark side, which is an entirely different thing. The various aspects of Star Wars are rather fascinating. However, the point was the Force. Specifically, the lack of trust that a Sith is given around a Jedi. Now, the reason why the Sith don't like the Jedi is because the Jedi wanted galactic peace. The Jedi were like, okay, we want everyone to be at peace. We want to be mediators. We want to use these powers that we've developed for good, for helping the universe prosper. And the Sith were like, well, we want to use these powers for our own desires. We want to use them for whatever we want, And the Jedi, for the most part, were just like, yeah, sure, whatever. We don't care. They really didn't. They did not care. They were like, hey, whatever. But the Sith, they kind of took things a little to the extreme. And then they started basically using their powers for selfish means, not just not just a little selfish either. I'm talking extremely selfish, as in like they would do things that were definitely not normal for anyone. They would hurt people. They would kill people. They do all kinds of nasty things. And the Jedi were seeing this and they were like, whoa, you can't do that. And the Sith were like, hey, we can do what we want. We're the Sith. And the Jedi were like, you and what army? Okay, because we're Jedi. We can stop you. And the Sith were like, yeah, I'd like to see you try. And so the Jedi did. And that's the story of how the Jedi and the Sith started fighting each other. is quite simply, they were just like, I'd like to see you try and stop me because you can't stop me. And then they stopped them. Because the Sith drastically underestimated the Jedi. That happens a lot. However, the main problem arose from the method which each side decided that they wanted to go about resolving the situation. The Sith simply just wanted to do their own thing and enjoy life, which is not some terrible crime against humanity. It's actually just kind of average. The Jedi are very used to dealing with such situations. The Jedi are, of course, mediators, peacekeepers, so they're used to that kind of stuff. That's fine with them. They don't mind that the Sith are like that, which is why it's so easy for a Sith to be forgiven by a Jedi, is they're used to it. You know, they're trained from childhood to just be used to it. That being said, there are a few things in the Jedi Order to be aware of. For example, it is perfectly fine for a Jedi to have as many lovers as they want. They just can't get emotionally attached. So basically, they can have prostitutes, they just can't have a wife. And the reason for that is because they found that as they get more emotionally invested, they have a tendency to get more violent because they find themselves more vulnerable, and that vulnerability leads to them basically getting manipulated into doing things that are not very Jedi-like. The Sith are also extremely manipulative, and they're very aware of this flaw in the Jedi logic. So the Sith have a tendency to abuse this fact, and they use that to manipulate the Jedi, which is very unfortunate because, you know, the Sith are very powerful, as one might imagine. However, the Sith also have their flaws, because you see, each side only took half of the philosophy of the original philosophy. Because of that, there is a massive logic gap in both philosophies. Therefore, the resulting mantras for the Jedi and the Sith both are actually a amalgamation, a mixture of the two mantras, which originally used to actually be one mantra. It used to be one phrase. However, when the two groups split, each group took half the phrase. So the Jedi got things where they're talking about, you know, always be in the light, always focus on the light, that kind of stuff. Whereas the Sith got things focusing more on the darkness. This ended up resulting in the Jedi, of course, having their famous good guy mantras, where they're sitting there and talking about galactic peace and mediation and all this other stuff. Whereas the Sith are sitting there looking like the villains, because they're sitting there talking about taking over the world and destruction, all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, so what defines the two groups? Well, the Sith have the destruction, obviously, but the Sith also have things relating to lightning. And you may have wondered, how is the lightning a evil aspect of the Sith, of the Jedi? How is that actually related to them being, corrupted? The answer to that is actually surprisingly simple. The Jedi Order and the Sith Order, as I mentioned, both originated from this planet that they studied originally. And this planet is specifically, as I mentioned, it has a storm on one side, a calm side on the other. And then as you monitor the planet, you find that the planet itself is actually able to respond to the Force users' presence. So as they continued to expand their abilities, the Force users found themselves actually affected by how the planet was acting. And then they also realized, of course, that their actions were affecting the planet. So it was a two-way street. Not only were their actions affecting the planet, but the planet was affecting their actions. And they were sitting there going, oh my God, this is a revelation, and both sides took note of that, but then they started questioning how they should use it. And that's, of course, what I was just discussing, where they started arguing amongst each other about how to best use their powers and all that. And that's fine. Like, the point of the discussion is not that the Jedi wanted to use their powers one way and the Sith wanted to use them another. The point is that as they evolved their abilities, they found that certain things were happening that they couldn't exactly completely explain. So they did some study, they did some research, and they found out about those midi-chlorians or whatever they were, which is actually a real theory. You would be surprised how much of these sci-fi shows utilize as much real science as possible because they want to sound smart. So they want some realism, some granularity of realism in their show. Believe it or not, that is an actual official statement from quite a lot of shows. Not to drop names on any of it or anything, but for example, Star Trek and Star Wars both used that reasoning, that logic of they want some form of realism in their shows because they want people to respect them. And it's like, you want people to respect you, so you're going to use the most realistic stuff you can possibly imagine. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, that makes sense. Of course people would do that. Why wouldn't people do that, right? But at the same time, it also begs the question of how much realism were they actually going for? Because a lot of it was very realistic. Like, they did a lot of lore on how the food replicators worked, even. They did a lot of lore on how the on how the teleporters worked. Okay, they had teleporter blockers even in the show. They figured out how to make it so that teleporters couldn't work. And they did that by first figuring out how they did work. They had replicators, they had molecular reconstruction, they had, all of this stuff, but they actually got all of this stuff from science fact. So it was less science fiction than most of the shows that were out there, and that's why people like it. I love that about gravel. So because it landed on a half slab here, that is actually a half slab. It's an upper half slab. But because that's not a full block, the gravel, it wasn't supposed to, but it bugged out when it landed on it, and the gravel ended up breaking as a result. So, as a second example, pay attention, Mojang. This is for science. Here, I shall put my shield away so that you can see better. Let's see. Okay, we got half slab there. That is a half slab. I can guarantee it. I put it there. And then we've got this stone. Above it, we've got a bunch of gravel. And when I break this stone, the gravel is going to fall down there, and it will land on the half slab, and then it should become regular gravel, and I'll have to break it with my shovel. However, instead, because of the bug here, it does this. There it is, item form. Didn't even need my shovel. And then here we have a stairs. Let's see if it does it on the stairs. Yep, does it on the stairs. This one's a full block. So when I do it here, this one will happen normally. This is what's supposed to happen. That's normal. It falls down, nothing breaks. That's it. Then I just gotta break it down with my shovel, and there you go. However, instead, I ended up with... Let me clear out these little under blocks here. Instead, I ended up with this. Ooh, is that coal? That's coal. Give me that coal. Ah, coal with gravel on top. Clever. So yeah, the various aspects of the Jedi Order and the Sith Order were built around the worship of this one planet in the middle of nowhere. It was actually in the Outer Rim. So the fact that the Empire is so relaxed on the Outer Rim territories, despite the fact that it was in the Outer Rim that the Jedi Order was founded, as well as the Sith Order, which both, in fact, originated from the same planet, the same location, and the same group, even. That was a horrifying sound effect. Thanks, Mojang, for adding that one. It's a good thing I know I'm safe. Jeez. I'd be panicking if I wasn't. Floor is lit up like a Christmas tree. Yeah. So yeah, the fact that the Empire is so relaxed on the Outer Rim section of territories is quite surprising, because it was in those same Outer Rim territories that the the Jedi Order was founded. And the Jedi Order, of course, has been obviously very helpful to the Empire. So it's very surprising that the Empire has been so relaxed on welcoming the Jedi. Because the Jedi were very straightforward and very forthcoming about their intentions and about everything that they wanted to do. They were just like, look, we just don't want people to get hurt. We just want to make sure everyone's safe, everyone's fine. And the Sith, the Palpatine guy, was like, hey, those guys are evil. Don't trust them. And everyone was like, why? Okay, now that was a bat. Why is there a bat in here anywhere? There should not be any bats in here. For starters, it should not be able to spawn close enough to me for it to be able to utilize the very limited dark space in here. Which, by the way, I need torches if I want to utilize the lanterns. So let me make 28 torches. Craft those into lanterns. I'm going to have so many leftover lanterns after this project because I'm going to be placing them basically on 3 different floors, and then I'm going to be oh, it could be up there. Okay. Right. So I'm going to want to fill in all of this with cobblestone because I don't want bats or anything really spawning above my base. So I'm just going to be plugging this all up with cobblestone. Okay. And that's why you don't dig straight up. Because you might end up digging up and just having a face full of gravel. In my case, however, I knew I was safe because of that lovely error in the code where it's allowing me to break the gravel utilizing a half slab or a stair, despite them being upper half slabs and upside down stairs, which is the bug, in case you were wondering what the bug was. I'm utilizing upper half slabs and upside down stairs, and yet it's still breaking the gravel. That is not an intended feature. It's supposed to be, if it's an upper half slab, the block is supposed to remain a block. It's supposed to revert to actual block form from the entity form that it transforms into as a gravity block. By the way, if you ever have a gravel block that will not go away and you cannot interact with it, what you need to do in order to clear that out is you simply have to clear out the entity of the gravel block. If you're not familiar with what the entity name is, you can simply just clear out all entities. However, that of course could backfire because that could have you accidentally clearing out something else. That will also clear out any TNT entities as well. So if you are detonating TNT somewhere it will break your automatic TNT farms where you're utilizing the TNT as a block breaker. So that's something to be aware of. If you're utilizing TNT in some other way, it will, of course, cause you to break your TNT in whatever other way you're using it as well, because it'll just kill the TNT. It'll also kill items, so you got to be careful of that. But yeah, it's able to be removed if the gravel is a problem. But if the gravel is not a problem, then it's best to just use a shovel or, your fist or a pickaxe or something. You don't want to use chat commands to wipe out your TNT because, well, you can accidentally cause a lot more problems than you solve that way. So you gotta be careful of that stuff. You don't want to accidentally upset the server that you're on or world that you're on because you used the command to do something when you really didn't need to. Sometimes that is an actual issue amongst servers where they're just not aware that they're upsetting the other members of the server because they're not fully aware of what problems they're causing. Go. I'm going to use an axe to pick up this one. Yeah. If they're not fully aware of what problems they're causing, then of course it can get kind of awkward trying to explain to them how they're upsetting people. Especially as you try and explain that they might have broken some of the various farms, like maybe an automatic tree farm, for example. You might use a blast chamber to harvest the logs for your tree farm. It's a fairly common practice to do that. If you don't want to do it that way, then what you're able to do is the simple method of utilizing the tree farm in a collection section. You can use block storage, as it's called, which is similar to it's similar to just gathering it all in one place and then breaking it later. So, for example, if you were to use a silk touch pickaxe and then just gather all of the diamond ore and all of the quartz and all of the redstone and all of the lapis and all of the emeralds, and then break it later with a fortune pickaxe that you have at your base that doesn't have the silk touch effect, then you would find yourself utilizing your fortune pickaxe whenever you're actually trying to, maximize your ore. But in the meantime, you would have silk touch pickaxe providing all of your resources. Oop. Here's a hole in the ceiling there. Okay. I want to go up here. Okay. But yeah, you'd find yourself utilizing your silk touch pickaxe in that situation. because you'd want to maximize your orbs. So, in order to kind of lost track of the topic. The heck was that? It sounded like a phantom that got stuck on something. Sounds like my Minecraft is trying to play Five Nights at Freddy's or something. What was the topic again? Now I'm thoroughly distracted because what was that? Yeah, I entirely forgot the conversation because of that. I know I was talking about force and how it relates to programming languages and stuff, but geez, that was distracting. Let's see. I suppose I should dig out these lantern spots so I can have lighting up here. I can come down here, pick up whatever blocks drop through the ceiling. I think it dropped, yeah, there it is. Okay. And now I want to mine out these two. Okay, so as I was saying, the various aspects of the Force and the Sith and the Jedi and all these other, massive mixtures of groups are all working together in tandem as they try and build the Empire in the Star Wars series. So it's really surprising that they did not make better use of their of the Jedi and the various other organizations that were trying to basically grow the Empire. I know a lot of the organizations, such as the Trade Federation in the Star Wars series, had their own agenda. They were looking to further their own progress without any regards towards the Empire overall. Dead giveaway, they were planning on enslaving a planet in some sort of trade deal gone wrong, which failed, fortunately, because, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Gungan Jar Jar Binks, which, wonderful character, may have been based on something that was not exactly the most PG topic, but the character is actually amazing. They could have gone so much worse with Jar Jar Binks. The thing people don't like about Jar Jar Binks is that Jar Jar Binks is based off of a black guy. Okay? That whole, Misa is gonna help you. Misa is Jar Jar Binks. But let me explain it to you in the most obvious terms here. Misa thinks Master Annie is a really swell guy. Misa thinks that Master is a really swell guy. Master is a really nice guy. Yes, Master. Yes, Master. Oh, Master, you are so swell. Yeah, Jar Jar Binks is based on black people, specifically the black slave culture of speaking. So a lot of people don't like that about Jar Jar Binks. But guess what? Jar Jar Binks is hilarious. Okay, Jar Jar Binks was the comic relief in episode 1. Jar Jar Binks did that impeccably. They should not have changed that for episode 2. Jar Jar Binks was great at it. Okay, they all but removed him from episode 2, and then in episode 3 he was shown as this proud, solemn delegate, where he's just like, oh yes, I am of course representing so many of my people. It's like, you say as a Jar Jar Binks, you're the same guy who maybe forgot that you were banished. It's like, Jar Jar, you aren't, you aren't fit for this type of job, my dude. Not for, well, you're fit for the job. You're not fit for the personality. You know, they changed Jar Jar's personality, and that really definitely rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. That definitely hurt their sales for episode 3. So if Lucas was wanting a better movie presentation for episode 3, then what Lucas really should have done is he should have just kept Jar Jar Binks the same way and just had Jar Jar Binks be Jar Jar Binks, man. Like, just do what you do, as they say. You know? If you're gonna be Jar Jar Binks, be Jar Jar Binks. You know, be that little messed up Gungan who gets directions wrong and sometimes finds himself facing off against insurmountable odds because he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's like, okay, that's Jar Jar Binks for you. I just put all of these pumpkins in backwards. Oh my god. My OCD would not forgive me for that. Okay. I'm better. I'm good. I'm good. Got them all corrected on which direction they're facing. I will go down there and pick up the pumpkin I dropped, though, as well as the other items that were dropped down. But yeah, like, if Lucas really wanted to do better with the Star Wars movies, all he had to do was just keep Jar Jar the same way Jar Jar was. He didn't have to change Jar Jar. Like, that was not needed. And honestly, it was kind of rude that he did change Jar Jar. But I think the movie turned out all right for episode 3, even though episode 3 had so many drastic changes from episode 1. Episode 3 really focused more on the serious note that led up to the events of episode 4, as well as the series of events that led up to the Clone Wars. That being said, when Disney took over, Disney, of course, decided to, you know, take a nice piece of whiteout and just strike through a bunch of the official lore and just say, no, because we own it, it's not official anymore because we say so. And it's like, okay, I know you say so, Disney, but I'm going to tell you now, the fans are not going to be so accepting. Okay, just because you're Disney does not mean you're perfect. Okay, and Lucas understands this now, because when Lucas was asked to comment about what he thought about how Disney was handling his his intellectual property, Lucas's comment was, "Oh my God, I've sold it to a monster." So Lucas did not approve of all of the changes and the redactions that Disney did to the Star Wars franchise. And the fans also did not approve to a lot of the redactions and changes that Disney did to the franchise. And this shows quite heavily in the franchise's sales. However, because it's Disney, of course, the sales numbers are somewhat skewed because it's Disney. You know, everyone's familiar with Disney. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, Disney, family friendly. Let's take our kids to go see it. And it's like, well, do you really think that you should go and take your kids to see something that's so heavily modified from what it originally was, from what it was supposed to be, that the person who originally made it is sitting there going, what have I done? Me? I don't think that's a child-friendly concept. If that's what the creator of the franchise is saying about what was done with their intellectual property, I think that says something quite heavy about how badly the situation was handled. And I don't think it says it in a good way. If it did, then it probably would have turned out better as a result. But because it didn't turn out better, it really makes me question if Disney had the best interest of the franchise in mind when Disney decided to make the changes that they made. If they did not have the best interest of the franchise in mind, then Disney is going to definitely experience problems. Oh, this is so weird. Yep, that hurts. That hurts. That hurts. That hurts. That hurts. Oh, that hurt a lot. I'm going to need some kelp. Oh, I am swimming. I must have turned off the paper doll. Okay. So yeah. Like Disney has issues. And that's fine. Like, it's fine that Disney has issues. Everything has issues. Everyone has issues. You know? Not everything is going to be perfect. And that's fine. You know? You probably don't even want everything to be perfect, because if everything was perfect, then that would mean that there's really no problems. And if there's no problems, then there's no strife. If there's no strife, then there's really nothing to build character. There's nothing to build plot. There's nothing to build like tension or concern. Minecart. Where is my minecart? I got myself a missing minecart here. Why is there no minecart here? Okay, looks like I need to actually make minecarts now. I was not wanting to make more minecarts, but now I have to. But first, I have to go put away a lot of stuff. Let's see, where to start? Well, I suppose I start by jumping down here, because this is where I need to go first. Dive, dive, dive. Dive faster, come on. Let's get a move on, people. Okay, step 1, deposit. Deposit all of that. Actually, I need to hold on to that. Grab this. Throw that in there. Pull that out of there. Pull that out of there. Take these over here. Iron blocks, check. Coal blocks, check. Let's see. Wrong one. This one. Granite, diorite, andesite, polished andesite, polished diorite, polished granite, dirt, gravel, flint, and we've got cobblestone, which is surprisingly a lot of cobblestone. Yeah, that's a lot of cobble. Now I need to go over here. I need to actually craft this back into ingots because I need minecart. And then I have storage chests. I know I have storage chests. I need to grab all of this stuff out of here because I need to carry it all upstairs. I also need to grab this gravel, flint, and dirt. Oh, right. There we go. So I will be back for that stuff first. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so I need to deposit all of this stuff as quickly as I can. Deposit the flint, deposit the gravel. I need to deposit my redstone, both the dust and the blocks. In order to save space, I shall convert the spare blocks into dust because I have very few spare blocks, very few dust, so I'm able to conserve space that way. Block of iron, iron ingot, emeralds, diamonds, lapis. I don't know why I brought the lapis up. I'm going to be bringing it right back down. Okay. Now I can retrieve, where was it? This. No. Wait. Oh. Well, that just despawned in front of me. That's not good. Means I should hurry. Dive, dive, dive. Okay, so I've got the dirt now. I did not grab the treasure chests from up there. Refill my oxygen. So yeah, I don't remember how I was correlating Star Wars to programming languages, but the short and sweet of it is that Star Wars had a lot going for it, and yet still managed to mess up a little. If Star Wars can mess up, pretty much anyone can mess up, because, you know, Star Wars is Disney. And if Disney can mess up, yeah, pretty much anyone can mess up. That can go there, that can go there. Yeah, I'm definitely getting lag. I don't know what it is, though. I don't know why I'm getting lag. What I do know is I need to deploy this minecart with hopper. And I need to nudge the minecart with hopper to get it started. There it goes. No idea why it vanished. This has to be on a chunk border or something. That's why it's important to make sure all of your farms are chunk aligned. Oh, speaking of chunks, this is gonna be chunky. Boop. Okay. Now that we can see into the water properly, we can see there's definitely a chunk border running through this. Matter of fact, no, because that would mean that this entire thing is within a chunk. Unless the chunk is running through this way. That could be it. Oh yeah, that could definitely be it. How long's it been since we updated the map anyways? What do I think about it? Yeah, I don't think this is on the map. Oh no, it was. Well, I know the chunk borders are aligned with the I know the chunk borders are aligned with the zero grid. So 0, 0 is one corner of the chunk, and then of course negative 0. Negative 0 is a chunk diagonal from the origin chunk. So all I have to do is calculate out adding 16 each time, and that will allow me to know how much each chunk is supposed to be calculated out. If I, of course, don't feel like using a texture pack. I, however, personally prefer the texture pack route, because I like seeing visually where each chunk border is. I like knowing, like, visually where all of the chunk borders are. I wonder if I have any phantoms after me. Guess I'm about to find out. But yeah, so I taught myself Java script. This is a good time to mention to leave a like on the video. I'm like halfway through the second video and it's like, yeah, this is a good time to mention leave a like on the video. Technically, this episode's definitely going to get split up quite heavily. Because the video recording software crashed halfway through the first episode. So, like, it's going to be episode, episode 1 and then episode 1.5-2. So, it's going to get split up because of the way the recording software crashed on me. And the fact that the videos just record in 2 gigabyte chunks. There's not much else I can do other than just timing out the recordings. Like I could meter them out and map out how long I'm recording each episode and just completely overanalyze everything about it. But that's boring. Okay, if I wanted to do that much math, I'd play D&D. That being said, I do play D&D. So, I was actually planning on talking about D&D this episode, but I got distracted talking about programming languages because C# is incredibly difficult as a programming language. Java, not as difficult. If you know them, they are fine. They're perfectly easy, you know. But if you don't know the language, if you don't know the C# language, and if you don't know the Java language, then yes, they are incredibly difficult because you still have to learn it, and you still have to figure it out, and you still have to sit there and go, what am I looking at? And there's a good chance you won't know what you're looking at because you're sitting there trying to figure it out, and you're not going to just figure out C#. Okay, that's not how C# works. You can't just figure out C#. I'm sorry. I have tried to figure out C#. C# is not very intuitive. Oops. Here, let me just pop that off and put it back on. C# is not very intuitive, so if you try and treat C# as intuitive, you're going to find yourself regretting it, because C# is not intuitive. There's a lot of chickens. Now, while they grow up, we just leave the lava blade running, and then we just bloop, right on down. Okay, we want our next stop, or we could take this one, and then just wander over here, and climb up a floor. Okay. Yeah, I am able to self-teach programming, so I am able to understand the differences between a simple program and a complex program, and I'm able to understand how information security is able to revolutionize the world if done properly. And I'm also able to understand how information security is able to completely and utterly destroy the world as we know it if not done properly. I understand that the proper methods are sometimes not very straightforward. I understand the proper methods are sometimes a little bit suspicious sounding, a little bit suspicious looking, but that's just because of the suspicious people who utilize the behaviors listed of